This presentation will cover apartheid and several prominent figures in the anti-apartheid movement.
Apartheid began as a result of white settlers from Britain controlling the government in South Africa. Racial segregation existed in Africa in the years before apartheid, but was not formed into a legitimate government system until 1949 with the election of Daniel F. Malan of the Nationalist Party. But when Hendrik Verwoerd was the prime minister from 1958 to 1966, he went through many processes and developments to worsen the effects of apartheid. Verwoerd did this because he wanted the white powers of Afrikaners to remain dominant throughout South Africa. Under this new leadership, the apartheid system was officially implemented. Apartheid affected all aspects of society and led to oppression throughout the country. Apartheid implemented many laws to keep black and white people separated, such as living in separate areas, no interracial marriages or relationships, blacks were not allowed to vote or engage in politics, millions of Africans were forcibly moved to a new location, many lost their freedom of speech, and many blacks had no education. Basically, racial segregation under an all-white government. Majority of South Africans were required to live in separate areas from whites and use separate public facilities. They prohibited black people from entering urban areas without immediately finding a job. Africans were not allowed to run businesses or professional practices in areas designated as white South Africa unless they had a permit, such as being granted only exceptionally. Without a permit, they were required to move to the black homelands and set up businesses and practices there. Internal resistance to the apartheid system in South Africa came from several sectors of society and saw the creation of organizations dedicated variously to peaceful protest, passive resistance, and armed insurrection.
Nelson Mandela was born July 18, 1918. After living with discrimination throughout the beginning of his life, Nelson Mandela wanted things to change. He believed that everyone deserved to be treated the same, so Mandela joined the ANC, African National Congress. They held nonviolent protests in order to fight the policies of apartheid. In 1952, Mandela helped escalate the struggle by becoming a leader of the Defiance Campaign, which encouraged black participants to actively violate laws. More than 8,000 people, including Mandela, were jailed for violating curfews, refusing to carry identification passes, and other offenses. Over his 27 years of imprisonment, Mandela became the world's best-known political prisoner. In 1990, in response to international pressure and threat of civil war, FWD clerk pledged to end apartheid and release Mandela from prison. Apartheid did not immediately end with Mandela's release. Mandela negotiated with de Klerk for a new constitution that would allow majority rule. Apartheid was repealed in 1991, and in 1994, the ANC, now a political party, won more than 62% of the popular vote in a peaceful democratic election. Mandela became the first president of South Africa and served from 1994 to 1999.
Winnie Madikizela Mandela was born in the village of Mabongwini in what is now the Eastern Cape province. The majority of people around the world, Madikizela Mandela is known as Nelson Mandela's former wife. However, in South Africa, she is the mother of the nation and an anti-apartheid heroine in her own right. Throughout her activism, Winnie faced multiple arrests, torture, and long periods of solitary confinement, which was about 491 days. The apartheid government also subjected her to continuous surveillance and harassment, aiming to break her spirit and undermine her influence. But this didn't break Madikizela's spirit and kept the fire burning against the apartheid. In 1977, despite being banished to a small town in the Free State province, formerly Brandfort, Madikizela inspired the youth and women to take part in a mass action that mobilized women to protest against apartheid laws. For her contributions during the apartheid, she was awarded the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Award and the Silver Order of Luthuli Award. As the wife of Nelson Mandela, she played a crucial role in maintaining his legacy in the anti-apartheid struggle during his imprisonment. She was a bridge that kept Mandela's vision alive.
Steve Biko was another prominent figure in the fight against South African apartheid. Biko was born on December 18, 1946 into a poor Xhosa family, the Xhosa being one of the tribes of South Africa. Ever since Biko was young, he had a passion for fighting for his rights. As a teenager, he was expelled from his high school for his participation in student activism and his anti-apartheid ideas. At this time, schools contributed to apartheid by condemning any anti-apartheid activism. Biko then enrolled in the University of Natal Medical School, where he became involved in the National Union of South African Students. As a member of this organization, Biko felt that they did not do enough to push for the welfare of black people in South Africa. Because of this, he co-founded the Black Consciousness Movement, BCM, in 1968. Biko's goal with this movement was to help to empower black people and help them build a sense of black pride. Biko believed that black people in South Africa would only be liberated if they could foster this sense of cultural self-awareness. He famously said, "The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed." Less than 10 years after helping to found the BCM, Biko was arrested at a police roadblock on August 18, 1977. The police beat Biko severely, and he eventually died from his injuries less than a month later on September 12th. Although Biko did not live to see the end of apartheid, his philosophies fostered growth in the anti-apartheid movement and eventually helped lead to apartheid being overthrown.
Solomon Malangu was a military operative and a freedom fighter who fought against apartheid regulations. He joined the African National Congress in September 1976 and left the country to be trained as the Spirit of the Nation soldier. On June 11th, he returned to South Africa as a cadre, heavily armed, through Swaziland to assist with student protests. 2 days later, as he returned to South Africa, Malangu, along with 2 companions, were stopped by police and a gunfight ensued that left 2 civilians dead and 2 injured. Due to the apartheid laws, Malangu was charged with the murders as an accomplice, and despite international protestations, his not guilty plea and the acceptance from the judge that he was not the shooter, the apartheid state demanded the death penalty. Malangu was executed on April 6, 1979, as his last words were, "My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. Tell my people that I love them. They must continue the fight." In 1993, the Solomon Malangu Square in Mamelodi was dedicated to his memory. The ANC hailed him as a hero of the revolutionary struggle in South Africa and named the school after him in his honor of his courage and dedication, the Solomon Malangu Freedom College. He was awarded the Order of Mendi for bravery in gold for his bravery and sacrificing his life for freedom and democracy in South Africa posthumously in 2005.
That's Unc. That's Unc.
Hello, this is for our video. This is my first son, Jacob. As you can see, my second son, Josh.
We got my uncle.
And my third son, Drofflic. We just are all a happy family out here. You know what it is. Father of 3, you feel me? These young boys, they're always eager to learn, so that's why we're out here. We're out here just learning.